Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GRG Esports 6 hours of Kyalami qualifying day. As you can see, the session here is just coming down to a close, and we'll start the Gt4 qualifying in just a moment. We have, I believe, 8 cars that are in the GT4 class, but I'm not sure how many have been able to show up for qualifying here today. So for the first bit, we'll just be watching some cars hot lap, but we'll progress into the GT3 class just shortly afterward for qualifying. We'll watch the track really get filled up at that point, hopefully. Hope everyone's well. The few of you who've joined in here and hanging in the chat. Those of you who are watching on VOD on YouTube, I do know there's a few of you who do that, not many, but some of you hang out and watch it on YouTube. We appreciate y'all. Got Dom in here with me for the commentaries as well, which is always a welcome sight. Dom, you haven't been able to been here for a while. I mean, I think you were here last month, but for a while you were kind of in and out with the being available.
Been a busy boy, dude.
Nice to have a bit more regular schedule now.
It's nice to be doing things, but yeah, it's always good to be back here for GRG. Obviously, next week 6 hours, and then after that, GRG themselves are competing in another 6-hour event, which I'll be commentating in myself. So I've got 2 6 hours back to back, which will be fun for me. But nonetheless, like you say, qualifying. It's nice to have some GT4s this time. We do have, like I said, 8 signed up, but currently 6 actually in the server. So we are waiting on 2. I know one of the North American race room cars in GT4 is not here today, so that means we'll have 7 at a max. But with practice over, it looks like we are only going to have 17 with us, make that 18. There's one just hops in at the death there. So 18 cars compared to the 29 that have signed up. It's not the end of the world. Of course, all 29 can race with us next week, but obviously they just have to start the back of their class then.
And of course, I mean, we might have some people try to come and sneak into the session shortly.
Yeah, I think that's why we're being held momentarily. I think so. If you join in at the very death, it holds the lobby in the wait time. If anyone is joining, if not, we just have to wait that 1 minute and 30 out.
But ACC yeah, is freaking out right now. I think I don't know if I just got kicked from the session or something, but it is freaking.
It's not having a fun time for me either. The timer is still ticking down for me. I'm not sure if it is for you, but I can't click on anyone nor anything.
Yeah, it's exactly what I got as well.
It's yeah, it's not ideal, but hopefully once that, if we rotate into qualifying, we'll be good to go.
There was a server restart.
Well, we never can't get through the weekend without one, can we?
Someone's car got pushed to be the wrong car. It's always delightful whenever you have that, but not the end of the world. Just extends our time for more drivers to show up.
Green light. You can't have a GRG event without at least one server restart at some point. So it's kind of tradition around here. It's always something. So yeah, a little bit of an issue with the what was it, the driver entry list. So apparently the 2A8 is meant to be in an Audi, and they were joining in a Bentley. So hopefully that's been fixed. Our good boy Ethan over there dealing with the servers, doing a good job.
Dom, they're asking you to rejoin the server and do the /skip command to bypass the 8 minutes remaining in the session, since we have everyone already in. If you would like to do that, if you're here. Oh, welcome in, Zvonmir. See you over there. Nice dark racetrack here for the practice session. And I do believe that qualifying might also be in the dark. So this should be a fun session to watch.
Green light, show them what you got.
Alright, on to the next session. We are now getting ready to... Cars are rolling. So again, it's GT4 first that will be taking the racetrack. In the session at the moment, how many G4 do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that we have 5 of the GT.
Are we still unmuted?
Oh, hi, I had my Discord muted.
No.
I was sitting here talking to you. Yeah, we are in the first qualifying session for GT4s. Cars are rolling, and it looks like we have 6 or maybe even 7 of the GT4s that have showed up now, which is cool. We'll at least have majority of the field here, besides that one NARR car that you mentioned not being able to show up.
Yeah, so nice to see some representation there. So the one we are missing is the 98 car, I believe. Yes, indeed we are. The 98 car, which would have been a McLaren. But we've got 2 BMWs, 2 Aston Martins, a Ginetta, Mercedes, and a Maserati. I don't know why there's a Maserati. It's the very left field choice indeed. Same with the Ginetta, to be honest. But nice to see a bit of a diversity in the GT4 field. You can see for GT3, so there's a plethora of Aston Martins. So we'll get to them in a moment. But yep, we're the first 2.5 minutes into qualifying now. Half an hour session for both GT3 and GT4 then case. But quite an open track for GT4s, like I say, there's only 7 out there, so they shouldn't be held up by traffic too much in the same way that the GT3s will be.
As you mentioned regarding the Maserati, I'm going to take a wild assumption that they are quite fans of the Maserati, because the name of the team is also the Maserati Mafia. And if you look at it, it's quite an ugly looking car. It is currently in a pink, purple, lime green, and light blue configuration. And yeah, I believe that they are having fun with it and taking the meme with the GT4. Obviously, the Maserati, the reason why it's not commonly a chosen car that people will go for is because it does not have traction control or ABS, unlike every other GT4 car or every other car in this game for that matter, outside of the Porsche Cup, which does not feature traction control as well. Or does it not feature ABS? I don't know which one of
I
the.
think it's ABS it doesn't have.
Okay, it's ABS, still has traction control. So it's definitely it's a left field pick, but I mean is a very fair pick, and I think around here it's actually not awfully off the pace, if you will, in comparison to how it will be at some tracks. Kyalami is quite forgiving as long as it doesn't start raining.
Anytime will tell. But yeah, nice to see that we have the have a couple of these cars here. Obviously, that Maserati does look pretty garish in its colours. We don't have the skin pack as of yet. That gets released on the Wednesday before the race, so that'll be in a couple of days' time, and then we'll get the skin pack out, and we'll be able to see all the cars in all their glory in time for the race. But for now, it's on the default colours of lime green and a glossy purple, and it's yeah, I'm not going to call it ugly, but it's I wouldn't call it pretty either.
We're in the first lap time set coming across the board now. The 24 car, Gavin Moore with a 152.6. Now, I don't have very good bearing as to what is a quick time for GT4s, but I know that this team is never too far off the pace right out the box. So I do suspect that we will see solid lap times as Hugo Gomez in the 515 BMW comes across and sets a 151.4 for the first lap time as well.
Yeah, so obviously maybe not the quickest then from the 24 nor the 66. Hugo Gomez then in the BMW, certainly at the pace at the moment. 51.4. Like you said, I really don't know reference times around here. Either I expect the GT3s to probably be 8 to 10 seconds quicker. I'm guessing around a track like this, it's pretty slap bang in the middle. There's a long straight, obviously down to turn 2 at the hairpin, and a bit of a straight coming out of the hairpin at the back end of the track, going down the hill through that long left-hander. But apart from that, not a huge amount to stretch your legs, and you're always going through little bits of tricky corners, long sweeping corners. Also, we have the kink at the penultimate corner as well, which you've seen many people get caught out on in various championships, not just ours. So we'll see how they fare. Like I say, the Maserati. It's probably same with the Ginetta, to be honest, as well. Matt Neal, nice to see him back here again after a bit of a hiatus with his educational needs. Exams and that are kind of are important, but nice to see them return. But yeah, we'll see how everyone fares. Not really a straight line speed orientated track, but yeah, quite balanced for all cars.
Fair point was just mentioned. So for the scoring pylon, obviously the difference between the GT4 and the GT3 is the GT4 on the scoring pylon have that little blue tick in the bottom right. That kind of indicates that they're GT4. Well, for us, we take it an extra step further for the broadcast just to make it a little bit easier to see for everyone, and we make the GT4 red and the GT3 white. It just makes it where it's a bit more standout. You can tell a bit better, especially if you're in the car. You don't have to try to look for that little blue tick on the relative. Rather, you can just see big red square. Okay, it means it's the car I'm lapping. It kind of is a bit easier for the GT3 drivers to manage. However, the 515 managed to sneak in here and still have a white number banner. So we'll have to just a bit funny to see that one of the cars slipped through without it. As we're talking here, the top three are all within 6/100ths of a second right out the gate here, and I imagine the track will only get faster as they go. So it is going to be interesting to see if they get any closer, or if someone manages to really put in a good lap and break out with the time.
Indeed, they got quite lucky with the track starting at the optimum conditions already, but of course it still needs to get cleaned up anyway, and obviously the first 10 or so minutes of the session does that. cars will only get quicker, the drivers get used to conditions. Obviously, most cars will do 2 runs where they'll go out for 10 minutes, come in, reassess, and go out again for the final 10 minutes. And I'm sure those times will come down. It is middle of the day, so track conditions, so you can see there 28 degrees ambient and 34 on the track. So it's pretty warm out there. 34 degrees is a little bit toasty. It's not too much of an issue. If we're looking in the 40s, then we're starting to get issues, but it's far from ideal conditions for sure. But Matt Neal there in the Gt4 actually bringing it out to pole by 4.5 tenths of a second now.
You need to watch here, see if anyone can improve their lap time. We're still 20 minutes left in this session, so you're not trying to push every little bit that you got right out the gate. You're kind of trying to hide a little bit for maybe that last stint, trying to maybe catch a couple people off guard. But yeah, here at the moment we're watching these cars try to battle it out. Of course, on race day we will have a limited tire set, but for qualifying day we do not at the moment. It's something that we are looking into for possibly the future endurances. Is to slim that down and force drivers to only have a couple of stints that they can run on fresh tires for qualifying day.
It just adds into that whole strategy element where everyone's taking tires every single time, and they're on those fresh boots. Also, we had it at the Hungaroring last month out, where we had one less tire set than the hour allowed, which meant one of those stints had to be double stinted. Just added into that little extra complexity, and obviously if we can incorporate that into qualifying, not make it harder, but just makes people have to think a little bit more and assess how they're gonna run through qualifying. Because obviously, like say, everyone can escape back to the pits, put on a new fresh set of compounded tires, and go again as Gavin Moore goes second, then improving by about 4 tenths of a second. Everyone at the moment on sort of slower laps as we hit that sort of first 10 minutes of the session. So 1/3 of the way through, we've got 20 minutes to go, and separated by 3.8 seconds at the moment. The 66 car, one of the North American Race Room Discord cars, and that saying it is a Race Room group which has formed this team. So they are primarily from the world of the Race Room. Very different characteristics, you could say. Obviously the same lap time gets produced in a GT4 car and race room as it does in ACC, but the way it feels and the way it does it can be a little bit different. Also, we know that from sim to sim, from game to game, not every car feels the same in each and every sim. So it's a bit of a learning curve for the 66, and along with the 96 as well. We'll see them next week out as well. We'll see how those who drive in the in race room actually fare when it comes to ACC. I've been chatting to a few of them. They're saying it's a tough challenge, and understanding how the force feedback is mainly their biggest issue at the moment. But they're stepping up to the challenge, and hopefully Jackson Sangalang, who's in 66 right now, and the secondary team should join us next week. Hopefully they have a good showing. It's nice to see that they're bridging the gap from one sim to another.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very noob, if you will, to the ACC platform, as you're mentioning, and so it's definitely a learning curve for them to try to adapt to. ACC is definitely a very different sim to Race Room, so see them trying to jump over and do some races here. Will be fun to see how they progress, just even over this next week, because obviously the more track time you get, the better you'll become. So as they sit here and they run in qualifying, I suspect they'll get slowly faster and faster, and then by the time of race day they might be a little bit closer on the gap, and maybe by the end of the race, with 6 hours of driving, they'll have maybe found their rhythm here on ACC.
Yeah, because a lot of testing goes into this, and especially for those who have swapped from another sim. All 4 of the guys here, 2 for each team, obviously. They're exceptionally quick in the race room world, but if you have no practice on the way ACC manages its physics and its time model, then you're not going to be quick straight out the bat. Obviously, some people are, and everyone's very jealous of the people who are, but in most circumstances, it does take a little bit of a while to to bring up to that pace. The 66 has improved once again by a couple attempts. It's ever getting there, like say, Case, and they can spend the entire week learning and see what the level of performance they need to reach to be competitive, and they can strive to go get that. Obviously, the 36 car, which is my number. I don't know why they've stolen my number, but obviously 3.2 seconds is quite a large margin. But for your first ever race, that isn't just a normal 15 half an hour sprint races which we have in ACC when you join a quick server or the quick lobbies. This is their first proper event as such, and you don't expect anyone to be on the money straight away.
I mean, absolutely, and all the drivers that we have qualifying here today in the GT4s. I mean, Matt Neal, Gav Moore, Dieter Posen, Hugo Gomez. All these guys, they're all quite quick in these GT4 cars. They've been doing it for the better part of the last year. They've been running these GT4 cars since they released late and they were middle of 2020, right? So like it's probably been like 8 or 9 months that these cars have been out, like where they've been fully updated and BOP'd, because for the first couple months they were working on the BOP with them. But they've had a lot more time running these GT4 cars than obviously a newcomer to the game has. So they'll be able to put in some laps and learn. And one of the biggest differences with ACC to Race Room is setups, right? Race Room is pretty bare bones in terms of your tuning and your setups and such with how you adjust. And ACC is not overly in depth in comparison to where like iRacing's setups are. However, it's still very much more twitchy and much more precise that you must be, especially with things like tire pressures and cambers and other things within these suspension geometry. Compared to Race Room, you can kind of get away with a little bit less. And I don't even think you can adjust tire pressures in Race Room. I don't know if it matters either as to really where they are. Where in ACC, you have to have your tire pressures perfect. If they are a tenth of a PSI high or low, the car will drive completely differently. So these Pirelli tires, they're very, very twitchy on that. As the 7 goes and closes the gap here in the DSRT car, they managed to get down to just 3.5 tenths of a second off a pole. So our top 5 really close here in qualifying through the first 15 minutes, and now we're in the final 15 minutes of the session, and this is where I suspect we'll really start to see people lay down their quick times, go and try to get those last couple of setup adjustments to the day, and go and try to push really hard and see if we can't get those last couple tenths out of the lap time.
Yeah, of course. You got to set a banker lap to start with. We see that in F1. We see that in all sports where they'll all go out and do one run, and just it's nice, safe, and conservative. And there's one lap on the board. Obviously, here in GT racing, you can do multiple laps at a time without the tires crying out for help, which is a lot more helpful for these guys here. But yeah, like I say, everyone's they're pushing, but they still want to put a decent representative lap on the board to start with, and then those final 8 minutes they can really start pushing the limits. And if they do invalidate a lap, it's not the end of the world, because they still have a number of laps to fall back on. Obviously, that top 6 there, 6 tenths of a second is very fine margins indeed. 66 is now sub 3 seconds as well. So like I say, they're ever getting quicker, and it's good to see. And I don't think we'll be seeing that 66 challenge for pole position today, but they'll get closer, and that's all what it really means at the end of the day. Is that if you can get a little bit closer, it's gonna help you out in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, coming to the race next week, you need 2 drivers, and you are only as fast as your slowest driver. So hopefully, Jackson's teammate, I'm not quite sure. I think it might be Jared. I'm not too sure. That might be Theo Lupu's teammate, the sister car, which isn't here with us. There's one driver I'm forgetting who it is, unfortunately. But I'm sure they've all been putting in the good training, which is obviously going to help them. Obviously, their race room, and speaking of them on their behalf, there was a race room event by them. The North American Race Room Discord put their own GT4 championship on Friday night. So literally last night they were doing their own GT4 championship, which had triple the fuel burn and double the tire wear. So completely different scenario to what they're doing right now. So they've just had to come from last night, where they're used to race from. They know what they're doing there. They were racing around Mid Ohio, a very tight technical circuit, and they've got to switch it up to one, a different game, two, a different track, and just everything, quite frankly, is different. And they've got to relearn that, and well, maybe not even relearn that, just learn that to begin with. It's just under 12 minutes to go then. Everyone just coming back out to the track. They've got fresh tyres on. They've maybe made a little bit of an adjustment here and there. Their radio actually scrapped that. 24, Gavin Moore has come his way into the pits. But we'll have a look then at our current leader. Then of Matt Neal in the Revline Janetta. Nice sort of white, black, and red car. You know, those three colours will always go together. They never not do. But keep your comments coming in the Twitch chat. Obviously, we are keeping an eye on that Twitch chat. Not so much for the YouTube, because that is purely for the VODs. And there goes the 36 then into the pits as well. So a lot of people making their way in, and like I say, just making those final adjustments to their respective parts on the car, and then they'll go out for the final 10 minutes. But yeah, thank you to all those in the comments. Hope you're all doing well. And yeah, we'll see how this unfolds. But yeah, the top two, 1/10 of a second, followed by third there, 18th, just in its own little bubble. And then we've got 5.5 and number 7 right next to each other. 713 in that Maserati. To be fair, there, Schaefer's done a pretty cracking job to get that Maserati within a second, quite frankly, of anyone else. And it's a very nice qualifying effort by them. But of course, still 10 minutes to go. I mean, that 66 just rounding up the rear, but on their first ever qualifying for a major event, you really can't dispute that whatsoever. So seeing who might be going a little bit quicker here. Number 18 just crossed the line to start themselves yet another lap. So they'll be on to lap number 9 here. So they're taking by one by one again, a little bit quicker here and there. Looking at our relatives, they actually blow through turn 1 and then invalidate their lap there. They run off the through turn 2, sorry, they run offline. A little deep, very easily done into that chicane, or into that hairpin, which turns into an elongated chicane as you go left, right, and then left up the hill. Very easily done. Unfortunately for the drivers, it's a tricky circuit. I'm sure Case will agree that it's fast, but it is also kind of narrow around here.
Yeah, definitely. Kyalami is one of those tracks that I think has the ability to be a premier venue, but in the sense that it's definitely it's a tricky racetrack. It's full of a lot of corners. We're just watch a 36 come through the second to last corner. Is a big old turtle curb on the inside there you have to avoid, but also at the same time you have to avoid the exit curb, because if you catch it, it's going to drag you right into a sand trap. So it's that's one of the corners for me that's really notable as to just being really tricky. It's an uphill to the left braking zone into a right hand corner. It's definitely not an easy way to move. And as you mentioned, with the elongated chicane coming through the hairpin here at turn 1 and then up the hill, you're coming from the right side of the track. You got to get back left to try to carry speed up the right, and then go back to the left again on a long sweeping, like double apexing left hand corner. It's a very flowy track. I mean, it takes very good use of the hill up and down here in South Africa. Definitely does the topography very well, very good justice, and yeah, I definitely think it's one of those tracks that has the ability to host a Formula One event relatively soon. It's obviously been in discussions of trying to get F1 to come here, and people want it. And I definitely think it's a venue that can hold it if money justifies going there.
Well, of course, a world championship, you'd suggest the world, and we are missing an entire continent. So it would make sense to come here. And when you say any track in Africa, the only one that does spring to mind is this one. You know, I don't actually really know of any other racing tracks in the continent, so it would make sense for them to come here. I
Even
do
more
believe, I
so
don't,
ones that can easily be a FIA grade
mm,
1.
this is grade 2 right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
so
sure
it's
it's grade 2. So it
mm,
wouldn't need a ton to be able to get up to grade 1. I think they would just have to maybe pave a couple of runoffs in a couple places, and maybe extend a tire barrier somewhere. But for the most part, I would say that it's probably a pretty close track to getting grade 1 certification.
there's no major areas on the track where you go, oh, that would be a problem. Nothing stands out here. You look at Brands Hatch and you go, no chance. But you go here and there's grass runoff. There's lots of paved runoff. There's also there's a couple of gravel traps here and there, which may get taken away if they do come here. And obviously some of the curbs will also get reprofiled. But yeah, it's nothing major. It's not like anything other tracks haven't done before. Zandvoort friggin' added banking to their tracks, so I'm sure they're fine.
I mean, if Zandvoort can be an FIA grade 1 circuit to host an F1 race, then Kyalami absolutely
Yeah,
can.
no
Because
reason
Zandvoort
why.
is a pretty scary racetrack.
Mm.
I absolutely love Zandvoort, but it is definitely a scary racetrack, especially with the idea of F1 cars going there. I actually didn't get a chance to watch the F1 race there this year. I don't know how it went. I can't imagine it as being too great, to be entirely honest with you.
As a hot lap, it was pretty fun to watch, but yeah, as a racing spectacle, it doesn't really work. I did my own private testing on AC there, and then also in R Factor, and anything quicker than the Formula 2 car, you struggled. I mean, even in the Formula 2 car, it was hard to make overtakes. In an F3 car or the W Series or anything from Tatus, um, or that sort of slower speed in open Formula, and you're okay. Formula 3 is about right and can have some good racing, but anything quicker, anything longer or larger, quite frankly, as well. And yeah, you're coming into issues, and it was like that in the F1 race. It was very hard to overtake. Not that there weren't any overtakes, actually more than I was expecting, but it is a very fast and very narrow track. So yeah, and it is, like I say, it's a very good track to drive on, especially as a hot lap, or if you want to go
Oh,
quickly
and
over one
off
lap.
the
Good.
racetrack, to interrupt you there, they were up
Number
by about
7, yeah.
2/10 of a second going into the final corner, and Gavin just trying to push for every little bit he can get, catches that inside turtle curb I was mentioning earlier, and invalidates the lap time, so not going to be a push towards the top there. As we were mentioning there, or as we were talking, Matt Neal also went faster on his last time around, setting a 1:50.640, managing to bridge out 2/10 of a second over pole. Now we are waiting to see if anyone else can make a jump here relatively soon.
Yeah, 36 just went off down at the turn number 5, I think it was, coming into the second sector. So they were trying again to improve their pole time, but unable. But they'll return to the pits and should be able to get back out, as they do just leave pit road now. So they should be fine to get round and do one more lap. But yeah, like say, Gavin Moore, he has the time in him, but you gotta piece it all together. I bet if we looked at everyone's best sectors and added them all up to get your optimal time, I wonder how close everyone would be. I wonder who's actually got some time left in the tank, but it's just throwing it away by missing an apex by just a little bit. And yeah, like we saw with the 24, you go deep just a little bit, and those 2-3 tenths that you've gained, they're gone just like that. And especially into the last corner, it doesn't really help him at all, because it then throws away your next lap as well. It compromises your run down to turn 2. So one little problem can be exacerbated quite quickly. The 515 and the 713 are both improving momentarily, so we'll wait for them to come through to the end of their laps and see if that is solidified. Just a 1/10 of an improvement will take that 515 ahead of the Aston Martin, the number 18. Bit more of a gap then for the 713, now 9 tenths down off the lead. And I see the 66 improving once again, 2.4 seconds off then, but coming through the final corner for the 515, they might be improving. I think they actually might just about get a bit of an improvement here. Will they go across line? Indeed, 2P2. That's quite the improvement.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a good jump right there, managing to improve their lap time by a couple tenths and go and put themselves into that P2. just barely over the other BMWs. Now the Maserati goes and improves huge up into P2 now. Martin Schaefer with a big time lap going in, securing that car that is unconventional and was being mocked right up front with the grid. The Ginetta and the Maserati, the two cars that are uncommonly picked, are sitting 1-2 at the moment.
Yeah, funny how things work out sometimes. Yeah, Ginetta clearly having the just a little bit of an advantage over the rest of the field. You know, we have 3 cars within that same tenth at the moment, just 3 tenths off the leader.
I mean,
And
we got 5
guess-
cars within a tenth of a
yeah,
second each other, realistically
exactly.
speaking. Everyone's right there next to each other from second down to sixth. And
It shows
off
that-
goes Zvonimir there on the final corner. So they're going to have one more shot at it here.
Gone wide.
Gone wide, and that's going to invalidate the next lap as well. So
Yeah, that's over
I
for
do
the
believe that
seven.
is qualifying session over for the DSRT Aston Martin, unfortunately. We're going to watch Dieter
Yeah.
Posen in the other Aston Martin here go and try to set a mega final lap time, and just behind him is Gavin Moore off the rear of his car. You can see the headlights back there. They're going to try to go for one more big lap. Posen coming across the stripe.
24's
Does not
improving.
improve there. That was actually a rather slow lap time. Moore does improve though. Gavin up into P2. Now just 0.2 of a second off of that Ginetta.
So was Gomez. Oof. It's so close. Both the 24 and the 5.5 improving on their last laps there, or at least penultimate laps. They will have time for one more.
Yeah, the
gap's
713
just
can
getting
get
closer.
faster once again in the Maserati. The track's
Mm.
just getting more and more grippy. Coming across the stripe is not faster, but we'll get one more lap to go. The 36 may also get one more chance at this. They're going to be coming through the final corner here, 15 seconds on the clock. So they're going to get one more shot at a final lap.
Yeah, they'll be the last to cross the line then in about 2 minutes' time once they eventually do. The 66 is in the pits, so they won't be going any quicker, but respectful qualifying from them. Jackson Sangalang in that 66 car in his first major qualifying has done a respectful job indeed, and obviously they'll go away over the week and learn a lot more and about the game and about the setup, and hopefully they'll come with a race package which can fight with the rest of the field, and everyone's within everyone else, the top 6 within half a second. Think they're all so close. If you
515
find that
went
time,
off the racetrack. Not to interrupt you there, but 515 is off, so they will not be setting another lap.
I think everyone's
Vonneer
slow.
crossing the line here, realizing the lap time's invalidated, will not set another lap. So now we're going to watch the 18 come across with the 24 just behind. Going wide there, the 18 just a little bit. Let's see, coming across. Gavin's at 0-0
He's backed
right
out of
now.
it.
He's tied with his fast. Big old wiggle in the final corner. That's going to lose him a tenth of a second. No faster for him.
Faster.
The
Yeah,
18
so-
does jump up into P5
Yeah.
though, swapping positions with Vonneer in the other Aston Martin. And now we're going to watch here, currently up 1/10 of a second. The Maserati coming through the penultimate corner. Up 2/10 now, coming into the final corner. Let's see if they can get a really good run here. Sliding all over with the wheel, really wrestling the car. No traction control, of course, under the acceleration. The Maserati going to come across the line. 1.5
Wow.
tenths off of pole, P2 for the Maserati Mafia.
Lovely slide across the line in celebration. That was a spectacular lap, both by Matt Neal and Martin Schaefer. And yeah, like you say, 2 cars which are very unconventional, and they did a stellar job indeed. The Aston, the Ginetta will come across the line about a second slower than its personal best, but there you go. Concluding your GT4 qualifying, then we are missing one GT4 car. It'll be the 96 or 98 North American Race Room car, the McLaren, and they will start 8th and last next week. But yeah, that was a very solid qualifying. But now, time for the big boys, the GT3s.
Something you were mentioning regarding learning the racetrack there for the NARR guys, the North American Race Room guys, is perhaps they're also learning the game, and maybe they were thinking like Race Room, where Race Room does not let you set a lap once the time has done. As soon as the time expires in the session, that's it. Game over. Session is
Yeah, that does
over, and
annoy
you
me.
move on. And so, that's something that's different, of course, with ACC is that it's time plus a lap in any session, practice, qualifying, or the race. You will always get that final lap in before the session ends, unlike in race room.
Yeah, that's possibly something that they were unaware of. That feature always does annoy me. The fact that once that timer does tick to zero, that's it. But hey ho, 208 car, the Audi having a bit of a spin coming through the middle sector. It's reversing backwards. It's having a fun time, quite frankly. But yeah, half an hour. Wait for that track to grip up once again. Obviously, we have started on the optimal conditions, but we still need to clear that track as we have moved to a new session. The track conditions do get reset a little bit, and we'll move through it. But a lot more cars on track. The track will get faster, quicker compared to those GT4s. So yeah, we'll wait for those times to come in. But we are expecting, I think, high 30s, low 40s for pole, possibly. But then again, I genuinely have no clue.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure as to what is a fast lap time around here. We saw 150 from the GT4s, and as you were mentioning earlier, traditionally the GT3s will be 8 to 10 seconds faster on most racetracks. I suspect it's not going to be too much different here. This is a rather high-speed racetrack, although there are a lot of corners and there isn't really a lot of areas where you're revving out your max gear. There's also not a lot of corners where you're taking it in first or second gear outside of the last corner and the first corner. It's primarily high-speed third and fourth gear corners, so GT3s might be able to benefit from the downforce a bit more than the GT4s did. So we might see a pretty large gap here in terms of lap times.
Yeah, for sure. Turn two and the final corner are your slowest corners. Obviously, the kink through one is still technically one, so down
Is
to
it
the
registered
hairpin at
as
the
one?
end
I
of the
did not
straight
know
is
that
two.
that kink was
Yeah,
technically turn one.
technically is turn number one, which is annoying because it's not really a turn, but you have to. It is on on their track map. They call it turn one.
Oh yes, sure
Um,
enough they do.
but yeah, but those two corners are, like I say, they are the slowest ones. Everything else is mid-speed, third, fourth gear, and these long sweeping corners that we have in the middle sector, and also down the hill towards the end of the lap for the long left-hander. The aerodynamic grip is gonna help you there. There's the fatter tires as well. All adds to the extra grip of the GT3s. Match that with a bigger engine in general, and you just got a quicker car. But we'll have a couple of laps coming in shortly. I'd assume shouldn't be too long before we first
Right,
go.
here they come across at
there we go.
141,
41.
so you expect you were about correct there with the high
30s,
30s, low
yeah.
40s going to be the good lap here, because the track, as we saw in the GT4 session, will only get faster, and obviously we have even more cars on the racetrack this time around, so as we get going, cars will just get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, I suspect.
Yeah, we saw well over 1 second of an improvement from those GT4s, and that's partly due to the track, but also partly due to the drivers getting used to conditions and setting faster and faster lap times as they get a bit more braver each and every time. And we'll see exactly the same here. We've got a 41.5 as our benchmark, but that it won't be long until that's beaten, and that's no disrespect to our pole man at the moment. It's just that other people are going to set those laps and are going to start getting a little bit quicker.
Currently the gap is still rather large. It was a really good lap for a first lap, obviously, out of that 101 crew, because everyone else coming in about a second and a half down from that lap time at the moment. So
I'm
as we
sure a fair
mentioned,
few people just
the track is rather full here for the GT3 field. It's quite fun to watch and see. It is a full field. It's obviously always a better day whenever there's more cars on the racetrack.
Indeed, they do say more the merrier for a reason. But yeah, the more we can get, it's nice to have a field pick up a little bit. I mean, we literally have double the GT4s from last month, the Hungaroring. which is lovely, and a few more GT3s as well. Obviously, a few aren't here with us today, which is okay. We don't have we do have a penalty for that, and that is just that you start at the back of your respective grid. So if you don't qualify in GT3, you'll start at the back of GT3. But yeah, if you can't come to qualifying, it's not the end of the world. You're still able to come to the race next weekend. So it's not the end of the world. But we should have a lovely grid of 29 cars. Apparently, there's a couple of people out there who are still trying to get an entry in. So if we can see 30 cars, 30 or more cars, that'd be wonderful for a 6-hour event. That'd be a really good show for everyone. I mean, both for us and for drivers, because I know, in case you'll say from this experience, we've done a 24-hour race where there was only 15 cars, 15, 16 cars, and it's not ideal because you get quite lonely up there. And if you become a lap down or a lap above, your rivals, you get on your own. You're not fighting with anyone. You're just hot lapping at that point. You're just there to complete the event, which is, it's great in its own. And if everyone's happy to complete the event, good. But obviously, you want to be fighting with people. You want to have people to race. And if the numbers aren't quite there, then it makes it difficult. But the more, it's like a snowball effect. The more entries you get, the more likely other people will put their entries in as well. So yeah, it really does help that when people get their entries in early for these events, it encourages others to also get their their entries in as well. And we've drawn in from other communities. HSP has been one, DSRT, now the North America Race Room people have come in. And they keep on returning, especially DSRT, who bring 4 or 5 cars every single time. It's great to see familiar faces, but also we do love seeing the new faces as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to see the reoccurring faces come in, the reoccurring cars come in, and seeing them compete and get better within their own right every time that they show up. Obviously, the teams just get faster and faster every time that we race. So it's always great to see as lap times are starting to come down now. We've seen a 1:41.1 coming across the stripe, but still that initial lap time there, as they actually just went faster from Coates there in the 1:01, was actually quite impressive with the 1:41.5. It hasn't really been beat yet, apart from a couple of drivers, including themselves, beating it. So to come out of the gate with a good lap on your first attempt is actually quite impressive.
Yeah, for it to hold up for about 5 or 6 minutes there, at least 3 or 4 laps from drivers is impressive. Do now have the 45 then, Naz, who goes to the top. Yeah, like you say, that 101 car holding pole and beating it themselves for quite a substantial amount of time. But those laps are now coming in then. So we have 14 here out of the out of the 21
going
that
faster than the
signed up.
45 car, just snagging the pole position there by
Tiny bit.
2/100ths of a second. Sorry, not even 2/10, 2/100ths of a second.
Yeah, 44 slotting in then between the 3 Aston Martins that we've got there at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Aston Martins we have in GT3. You'll assume that one of them's going to do quite well at least.
This definitely seems to be an Aston Martin heavy entry list. The thing that surprises me at the moment, at least here for qualifying, is we do not have a Bentley actively racing. Our traditional Bentley team, the 107, have elected to go for the Lamborghini this time around. Perhaps just trying to get a little bit of practice in a different car and see what happens. But definitely interesting to not see a Bentley here for the 6-hour event, because the last time that we hosted a longer event, the Bentley seemed to be quite the OP car, just due to the fact that it could go longer and cut off a stint. So we might see something similar here with the Aston, as it can go about just as long. Obviously, last time out at Hungaroring, we saw quite impressive driving from the Audi team. My apologies, I don't particularly remember the team name, but they managed to get the car to run the same length as a Bentley in the Audi, which was just absolutely impressive. The fact that they were able to get that type of fuel mileage out of the Audi.
Yeah, and obviously, like I say, that Bentley is sort of in a league above the rest when it comes to that fuel mileage. Aston Martin isn't too bad. But yeah, that Audi team, Hungarian, did a stellar job to do that. But obviously, if you're going to change car, I mean, Bentley to Lamborghini seems like quite the change. It's like well, I don't know. There's a very big change. Bentley, you could have gone BMW, sort of similar size and weight. You don't really go to something which is more cheese wedge shape as opposed to brick shape wedge. So interesting that they have gone for that Lamborghini, but if they can put it on pole or even win the event next week, then it just solidifies that the pace and the talent that team has. They've won it in the Bentley so many times now that they're almost at a stage that now they can go and prove it. It's like Lewis Hamilton when they say, "Oh, you only wins because of the car," and maybe that's mildly true, but even in times where he had car, say 2012, 2013, where he didn't have a car that was as good, he's proved it. Of course, Lewis is the only driver to win a race in every season that he's competed in over the last 14 years, and that's a testament to him. And maybe the 107 will do something similar. We'll try something new and just show it that it's not just a Bentley that gives them the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we know the talent of that team. We've raced with Yannick and a couple of them many a times. They've been around the GRG events for a long time with us, and so we all know the pace that's there. But definitely a way to go and prove yourself and prove your worth is whenever you can take a car like the Lamborghini and still make it incredibly quick after doing so many laps in the Bentley. Also, I think they ran the Aston Martin at Spa. And they actually did not end up winning that race, which was a surprise to all of us. So, maybe they can go and they can try to do something here and see what they can do in the Lambo.
Yeah, maybe we can prove everyone wrong. So we do have another one of the North American Race Room drivers. I thought they only entered 2, but it's possible that they entered 3. I'm just going to check the entry list. There's so many teams, I'm struggling to find them. So actually, they did enter 3 teams into this. I thought they'd only entered 2, but they've got 2 then in GT4 and a 3rd car in GT3. Theodore Ensry at the helm of the 99 McLaren. So sticking with McLaren then in GT4 for one of their teams, and Mercedes for the other. But yeah, I reiterate that I thought there were only 2 North American racing teams that joined, but yeah, we got a 3rd, which is lovely to see.
Always lovely to see more cars from more of these communities that we've been involved with for so many months, being able to come and show up and be here and come compete in our events. And the Audi now, though, to the pole with a 140.9, so we've broken the 141 gap, and we're down into the 140s here, so just barely, but did go and get it. And Suzuki on top in an Audi.
Yeah, lovely sort of graphical paint, sort of art splashes that we've got in this car. It's rather pretty. I think that is a default livery, I'd assume, if that's why I'm seeing it. Otherwise, without the skin pack, it would just be a couple of blobs of colours. But yeah,
So
like you say,
I do believe that is a custom scheme, or a default scheme. I meant, not a custom.
In game, yeah.
I do believe it's a Kyalami scheme because it is boasting the South African flag on the door.
Yeah.
Quite large.
That was the Van der Linde cars, maybe from like a year or 2 back. I wouldn't have been surprised.
Perhaps.
Obviously, can't quite see the names on the car, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Sheldon or a Kelvin.
Okay, let's
no,
go and check
that is where
what
they're
the
from.
names show.
I'm pretty sure. Sure, that's where they're from.
No,
from South
it does
Africa.
not actually have any of them.
Oh, I'm
Rudy,
surprised.
Haas, and Niederhauser. Sorry, I'm not very
that's the
good
name I
with
did not know.
foreign languages, but it is quite a
nonetheless.
good-looking race car.
Yeah, we seem to have a bit of a split pack at the moment. It's the top 7 and then the bottom 7 right now. So between Martin and Pereira, then the 208 and the 97 car. 6 tenths between the two, between P7 and P8. So we definitely have well, they're split evenly, which is quite nice. The top 7 and then the bottom 7. Hopefully they can join to the back of the top pack, but the field only separated by 2.4 seconds isn't a huge margin whatsoever. As the 738 car from third place
Chasing
goes
down
off at
the,
final corner. I
chasing
think
down
they
the
were
44
improving
with
as
the
well.
drone cam here. As faster goes the 45 car, as we've just crossed halfway through the session. So we're only seeing the teams get quicker and quicker once again. Now on pole. Is that a driver swap for the 45 car? I do believe that they've attempted in the session here, and a 140.8 now going to be the time to beat.
Still seeing the same driver for me, but no offense, my broadcasting client's actually completely messed up because everyone's name's wrong, so I genuinely don't know. The 107 then in the Lamborghini as we come through the kink. They're a couple of attempts up on their best lap right now. If they can solidify that, they've got 4 attempts to find to P4, so a bit of a margin. 13 minutes to go, so plenty of time though still left in the session for them to bridge that gap as they do come across the line. They were 8 attempts off. They found a lot of time in that kink in the final P3. They found half a second in the last 2 corners, so a possible mistake then in the previous lap, and that takes that Lamborghini up to 3rd place.
Yeah, definitely quite an improvement there to go and put themselves up into P3, as you mentioned there. 0.3 of a second gained in just a couple of corners is a lot. So obviously they know they had something left on the table and that they need to go and prove they could get it faster, as they are sliding around now going into the middle sector. Gotta keep an eye on them if they're going any faster. Currently up by 1/10 of a second as they come through turn 6, 7. I think this is 7 here. Going down the hill on this off camber S. Definitely a very tricky corner as well. We were talking about hard places on this racetrack. That left-right that goes downhill off camber is definitely not a traditional corner and is very, very tricky to get right. But whenever you get it right, it's very, very satisfying to hit. Still up 1/10 here. We're kind of straddling on the 1/10, 2/10 mark here, coming down into the final couple of corners for the 107, trying to see if they can't jump their way into P2 here.
Yeah, margins very, very fine here. The top 5 then pretty close to each other. But
Oh, that's a
well,
lag.
they've disappeared from the screen. They reappear though.
That was a major server lag or something right
They
there.
do
They do
improve in
improve.
time though, so I'm sure Stefan won't be too displeased with the server lag there. He still improved by 1/10 there. Maybe he did lose 1/10 or 2 though with the lag. Will yet to be seen, but
Perhaps
another
that could have been
improvement just makes it a little bit harder for everyone else to catch up to them.
could have been a lag that we exclusively saw as well. Maybe Stefan did not even notice it on his side of things. I thought that they missed the braking zone and slid off the actually, speaking of missing the braking zone, off goes the 208 car there in the middle sector, sliding right through and off the racetrack. That was a big moment there.
Yeah, we're seeing a number of cars dive in and out the pits then, just like we saw the GT4s around 12 to 8 minutes to go in the session. They'll come in, new tyres, change bits and setup, maybe take a bit more fuel out if they need to, as we only do have 10 minutes now as opposed to half an hour. And they'll reassess for the final sort of closing
off the racetrack
stages
there for the 12
this
coming
qualifying
through
session.
the final couple corners. So setting a pretty good lap time. They were up in the green by a few tenths coming through, but that off track obviously going to invalidate the lap time and throw away a lot of time. So we have to see if they can't improve. I'm just trying to keep an eye on cars that are going faster, Currently, our pole car up by 1/10, or second place car, I should say, up by a tenth coming down into the final two corners. Let's see if they can maintain this through this final sector and maybe go and snag pole away here coming across the line.
Yeah, 10th is all they need to take pole. A little bit of a wheel in the dirt then coming out the penultimate corner, but
3/10 into the final
one,
corner. Looks like they have pole as of right now if they can maintain a good run.
looks like they've got that. Maybe a wheel in the dirt is all they needed to take pole. Coming across the line, and
stripe.
indeed they do.
140.7, faster by a tenth and a half. Really, really good through the braking zone into the final corner there for that team. Suzuki with definitely a mega third sector right there to go and find 3/10 just in the final two corners, just as we saw Stefan Kui do just a few laps ago.
Yeah, well, it took quite a while for the 44 to get past the 45. I'm wondering to see if that 45, then the Aston Martin can even retaliate to that. You know, it's only a tenth and a half, but they're at such a high level and such fine margins that trying to find that extra tenth when you're already going as quick as you can, it's going to be so hard for the rest of the drivers here. So maybe that 44 has it in the bag, but 8 minutes to go and never say never until that checkered flag is out. The number 12 then, Peter Varga, coming out the front of the corner, is improving on his lap. By a couple of attempts. He was 1.8 seconds off, comes across the line, is 1.5 seconds off. So 3 attempts improvement takes him from P11 to P10.
Oh, big
off
off there for Stefan Kui. He was up by 2/10 coming into the final two corners. Really trying to squeeze every little bit he could there and just went right off the racetrack. So will not be able to improve quite yet, as now the 45 car is starting a heater lap. They're going to try to go see if they can't find some lap time.
Yeah, all about that risk versus reward, you know, how hard you push versus how much are you going to get back through. And obviously the kink there, the penultimate corner, is so fiddly and it's so tight, and you have to get it right, or otherwise you'll hit the curb on the inside or you'll run wide on the outside. And, you know, if it's not inch perfect, then you're going to lose a couple of attempts compared to everyone else. So it's really a do or die moment, especially with it being in the, you know, the second last corner at the very end of the lap. You know, you have to chuck it in, or otherwise you throw away the entire lap's worth of progress.
Improving there by 2/10. Coetzer in the PWSR 101 car goes a little bit quicker up into P4 now. Still going to keep, back to the garage goes to 45. Never mind. I was going to say keep an eye on them, but they've decided to return the car back to the garage. Trying to keep an eye on anyone who looks like they might be improving their lap time as they come across the stripe at the moment.
Yeah, our track map littered with lots of light blue cars, which means they're all on their out laps. So you can see a lot of people have just come back from the pits and getting ready to go for the final runs of the day. But yeah, a few more people returning back to pits. We've still got 6 minutes, and they'll get themselves out there to fight for the last remaining places.
Up by 2/10 here, starting the third sector once again, Coetzer. So he might be able to jump up into P3 here if he can maintain the pace through the third sector. Gotta get the braking zone down perfectly here through these last couple hairpins. Braking still looking in the green right now. I'm going to go through the final corner up by 2/10. See if they get a good exit coming to the stripe. Does go quicker. P3 for Byron Coetzer in the 101 car now. Good run here by this team to go and pick up a few spots here. They went from P7 up to P3 here just in this last stint. And obviously we're going to try to go for one more lap. If you go faster through Sector 1, and if you don't, then just bring it back to the garage and go again.
Yeah, pretty much it seems like to be the game plan for most drivers here. But yeah, shows how fine margins it is. There at the top end of the field at 1/10 can progress you quite far. Taylor Williams was up by about 2 or 3 tenths coming into the penultimate corner. Got caught up on the curb through the kink, ran wide, and that was his lap invalidated, so it will stay P13 for him for now. The number 12, which is in the early stages of its lap, is also just edging around the 1/10, 2/10 up on its personal best. So we'll wait for the for that Ferrari to come back around. The only Ferrari here, actually.
2/10 up
lot-
here. The 992 looking to come to the stripe. Let's see if we jump up to P6. Cross line, not quite, just shy of the P6 lap time there for the 99 racing team. Machine. I'm going to see the 125, who's up at 3/10 here going through the hairpin. Maybe they could jump their way up into P5 here if they can get a really good third sector. 4 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. Everyone's going to be on their final hot lap stint now. Basically, if you haven't left the garage yet, don't even bother because the tires take about 2 laps to get up to temp. So now is the time to get out if you're going to try it.
Yeah, the only person who's not out is that 208 car. As we see the NSX then come into the final corner. Has a margin of about 2/10 up on its fastest lap. Gets the power on a little bit wide, possibly out of that final corner as we see them come across the line. It's an improvement in time, but not in position.
Now we're going to watch the 992 here go and try to get that position. So maybe that improvement was going to be good. 'Cause up by 2/10 here coming into the third sector. The 992 car really going to try to improve. Lost a little bit of time under the braking zone there up the hill into the hairpin. Obviously, it's a blind hairpin. You really can't see the apex. So you're kind of just hoping you hit your braking mark correct and hope you get there. Because if you mess it up slightly, you're sliding well off of the racing line and throwing away 3 or 4 tenths just in that one corner. Still in the green, I do believe, for this 992 car. It looks like they lost about 3 tenths through the third to last corner. They're coming through the last corner, then they're going to throw away a few more tenths there. Not going to be an improvement. The bad third sector for the 992 car really slows them down. Through sector 1, we're looking faster for the 445 car, or the 45 car. I'm going to go and try to see if they can't snag up a pole position here within the final 2 minutes.
And everyone's improving by such fine margins. There's a 10th here, a 10th there. They lose it, they gain it back again. And it's all about maintaining that momentum there. I think the 993 car might improve its lap time, currently in P12. Was 1.9 seconds. Does improve by 2 tenths, but it's 100th off P11 there. Then that 993 car is antagonizingly close to the back of the 97 Aston Martin. Speaking of which, that 97 Aston Martin then, the Oman Racing with TS Sport, Mario Pereira then in that car. He's coming through the final couple of corners there. It's currently
We're
P11
in the green,
right
2
now.
tenths here for the 45 car.
Ooh.
Oh, looks like they lost it with a little bit of wheel spin on the exit of the final corner. It does improve, but got invalidated on the final corner. Invalidated lap time there for the 45 car.
That's really
Would have been good
unfortunate.
enough for pole too.
Yeah,
We're really
it
gonna
was
have
on
to
the
push in
final
here.
It'll be their next lap invalidated as well if it was the final corner. 97 jumps from P11 to P9 on their latest lap. Good for them as well. Number 12 as well, also improving in their lap times as well. We do get to the death of the stage, and it's do or die. You've got a lap time which is competitive, around the people. But if you really want those extra places, those extra couple of attempts, you just got to throw everything at it.
Audi sliding off the racetrack there just in front of the 45 car. I'm sure that if this lap is valid, he was happy to see that happen because they can still push in. There was a slower Audi in front of them. I think it was the 208 or the 221. So they were happy to see them slide out of the way. Currently down by 1 tenth, so it's got to be a mega sector 3 here.
Looking at those deltas right now, everyone's just sort of a tenth or two off their personal bests. Everyone's close, but just not quite close enough. First person to cross the line, Peter Vargan, the number 12, will be no better than 11th place then tonight.
Oh, and I think it was another third sector invalidated lap there for the 45 team, as they're going to come across, and it was slightly slower anyways. Unfortunately, they had a really good push there, but not able to get pole, so I think that's going to confirm it for the 44 car to get pole. No one else looking in the green right now to go and try to take it away. Stefan Kui, closest one to it, coming into Sector 3, was up by 1/10 of a second. So if they can have a really solid final sector here, they might be able to try to jump their way up on the pole from 4th. Carry that momentum with the Lamborghini. You're just going to barely miss the apex there, a little bit wide, I think. Another big lag coming through the final corner for Kui. And we come back onto the racing line. Let's see if we get an improvement. No, we do not. Just slower for the 107 team.
Yeah, close, but not close enough. And there are only 3 attempts off the off pole, top 4 within 3 attempts. And that's spectacular to see. The 992 number 7 coming across the line. Now the final part to come across the line is a temp up on their personal best. Don't think it's going to be enough to take that 125. No, it wasn't an improvement, but not in position, only time.
And that is your final qualifying order. So the 36 car will take pole in the GT4 field with the Ginetta, and the 44 will take pole in the GT3 field with the Audi. Fun qualifying day here from Kyalami. Obviously, we are getting ready for our 6 hours of Kyalami next week. For those of you who are watching but are unaware, this was qualifying day for the 6 hours of Kyalami. Big event happening next week with all these drivers, and qualifying order is set. Obviously, we will have the grid still be more full from the cars that did not qualify. They will start at the tail end of the field in their respective classes based on sign-up order. So whatever car sign up first but did not qualify, they'll have priority of position versus the car that just signed up yesterday that didn't qualify. I'm not saying there was one, but you know, date and speed of sign-ups is a priority for the cars that don't qualify. It's kind of a little bit of an incentive to, as Dom mentioned earlier, get your sign-ups in early, because people are more likely to sign up for an event if they see that there's 15 cars rather than 3 cars, you know? So it's kind of an incentive, try to get everyone to sign up a bit earlier, get ready, you know, have the preparation in there, and then people will fill in to the grid as they go. Obviously, it's a 6-hour race. Qualifying isn't everything. Being on pole does not mean you're going to win. So it's going to be a fun race next weekend, and be sure that all of you do show up. We're going to have some announcements next weekend. So do tune in to the stream next weekend, those of you who are still here. There will be a rather large announcement for us to do during that race, and we are going to be looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. 6 hours of Kyalami. Decent, length race and a solid track to boot. And we are waiting on a few more entries as well, not just the ones that didn't qualify with us today, but a few more that have still picking up a few more drivers here and here. So we should see, hopefully, a 30+ grid for next week. But yeah, excited for that one.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a very fun race. As we're going to be racing into the sunrise. It'll start in the dark, and the sun will rise during the race. So it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be very spectacular looking on stream here. And we are looking forward to doing the commentary for that next weekend. Hope to see you all there. Any last comments to add, Dom?
Practice. Get a lot of practice in. And then do good. There you go. Done.
Practice is key. Thank you all for tuning in to the qualifying stream. We will see you all next weekend, September 25th at 1600 UTC for the 6 hours of Kyalami. And until then, we are signing off.